Here are the rules very quickly. Each candidate is going to be given 5 minutes to answer 2 questions. Normally, we've asked 3 or 4 in that 5 minutes, but we also want them to not only answer the 2 questions first. Did each of you get the questions? Correct? Everybody's got the question. And I'll read it so you know. They won't have to, that way they don't have to reread the question to you. But we'll ask them to answer these 2 questions, and then they can spend the rest of the time talking about anything that is important to them or tell you more about their background. Each candidate has 5 minutes for those 2 questions, plus their additional comments. We are asking them to answer the questions in the order presented. A timekeeper, cleverly disguised as a person having lunch, Joe, when you have 1 minute left, he will hold up the 1 minute sign. And he'll try to hold it long enough to make sure it grabs your attention. When you're out of time, he will hold up the stop sign. That is your indication that you should now stop. If you don't, bad things happen. We are asking them to end their comments when they hit the stop sign. After the questions are answered, or after you're completed, we will move on to the next candidate. Candidates are asked not to ask questions of each other. Have I covered it all, Joe? I think I got the basics. I think everybody understands, and we're excited to have all of them here. We did have one candidate, Maggie Squires, who was not able to attend today. All the other 7, however, are with us. We're going to go today in alphabetical order, because I'm pretty good at the alphabet beyond that. Here are the 2 questions. Question number 1, because of recent residential property valuations by the county assessor, the city could see a large windfall. Should the city accept the windfall and spend it, or lower the levy rate and return it to the taxpayers? Question number 2, what will you do as a member of the Lincoln City Council that would benefit Lincoln businesses? So those are the 2 questions. We'll go in alphabetical order, and with that we will start with Deb Andrews. Let's make Deb feel welcome. Deb?
Deb Andrews for City Council. Questions first. Okay, I think we should lower the levy and return it to the taxpayers. The second question, I think we should look at the bidding process and the mayor's role in the bidding process. Could more jobs be opened up to our small businesses in Lincoln? I think we should bid for renewal of contracts. Davis-Bacon wages, when they're required, eliminates a lot of small businesses from even quoting jobs. I think we need to look at, is Davis-Bacon a requirement that we need to retain? Is there a way we can get around that? I think we need to review rules and regulations, see what we can eliminate, those that are not connected with health and safety. One that concerns individuals makes me think there may be some for business that we could get rid of. In the behavior policy for public buildings in Lincoln, there's an extensive steering rule. If you look at a public employee or a citizen for too long, that's a violation. 3 of those, you're out of public buildings for a year. There may be some rules like that for business that we could eliminate. I think we should consider Nebraska first when we're doing jobs, especially public jobs. We have a $1 million sculpture in front of the arena that was designed by someone from Oregon. I think we have a lot of talent in Nebraska. We could have kept that money here. So Nebraska first. I have lived 50 years in Nebraska. I worked at the Nebraska Department of Labor for 11 years. I learned a lot about a variety of businesses, rules and regulations those businesses have to adhere to, hiring practices, personnel. I was assigned to the Comprehensive Employment and Training Agency for a part of that period of time. I learned firsthand what it's like to be poor in Nebraska, what it's like to get to work, daycare, the troubles that they have just getting through the day. their lack of education. We found out that, as we know now very well, a lot of them just need remedial education and some really good job training. I wrote contracts with employers for tax credits when they trained individuals on the job. That worked out real well. I also was a claims adjudicator for the unemployment insurance side. Our administrative law judge was in the office next door, and I learned that an agency cannot have both those positions in-house. The SEC is doing a lot of that now. They have their administrative law judges that decide cases that should not happen within that agency. I got a real good look at that. When my son started school, I got an education in education. His behavior began to deteriorate at school. Although he loved learning, it was a real puzzle and a concern. At our last meeting, I was advised my son's behavior deteriorated because he was on his computer too much at home at night. We did not own a computer. That was real good information. I switched him to a public school that spent half as much, but let kids learn at their own pace, and they also had very good, effective curriculum, particularly in reading and math. He started college half days at 13 and started doing research for NASA at 14. I learned to not just accept what we're being told, but to look at the process. How is it being done? Can we save money? I think we can in a lot of places. I'm concerned in Lincoln, Star Train doesn't run on Sundays and holidays. Zoning in my near south neighborhood has deteriorated over the years. Neighbors told me it's because the zoning was changed to allow 6 apartments where one house used to be. For the quality of life all over the city, we need to consider those situations in all areas. Parking tickets, I think before, if you get a parking ticket, it's $10. If you don't pay it in a week, it's $25. If you don't pay it in a week after that, they can tow your car. That person can't get to work.
Thank you. Now let's please welcome to the podium Larry Gaylor-Baird.
Good afternoon. I'm Larry Gaylor-Baird, and I'm running for re-election to the City Council to continue to make Lincoln an even better place to call home. Home is more than an address. It's that sense of security, strength, and well-being that I want for my 3 children, and I want for everyone in our community. But let's talk about home as an address for a moment. Let's talk about home as property, because our first question deals with property tax and the most recent revaluation that the assessor has undertaken unexpectedly and quite early. The assessor did this to comply with state law, and while typically it's done every 3 years, we've got a new indication that this is going to be an annual undertaking. It certainly came earlier than the city had expected, and it was due to recent changes in our housing market. We are becoming a more popular place to live, and our housing values are starting to reflect that. This is good for homeowners who are looking to sell, but it's not great for the rest of us who are looking at our property tax bill and thinking about sticker shock that could occur depending on how high your revaluation is going. In response, quite quickly after the assessor made this announcement, I publicly announced that I would lead an effort to cut the property tax rate in an effort, if these new figures stood. And this is really about trying to shield homeowners from the full impact of what could be quite significant increases. Last night, the City Council had a vote, and I certainly followed through on that pledge in the sense that we announced that we symbolically resolved to not take the full windfall, as it's being called. This is something that we can't actually legislate on right now in a binding way, but we can, in a sort of politically binding way, make that commitment to citizens that we don't expect that these revenues, these above and beyond what we expected to be required for our budget, that we would then keep all of them and spend them. So that has happened just last night. In response to the second question about what the City Council can do to benefit Lincoln businesses, I think the overarching answer is really to continue to create an environment that supports a vibrant economy. How do we do that? We do that at the city in several ways. We support the private sector, we support businesses and job creation by investing in infrastructure. We also do that by supporting economic development projects that come before council and have cast many votes to support them. And we also do our part to support workforce development. And I'll just elaborate on each of these things briefly. When it comes to infrastructure, we of course want to be able to move goods and services throughout the community, move people throughout the community. We're making historic investments in our roads as part of that. This has included some work I've done on the RTSD, the Railroad Transportation Safety District, to help increase resources to build that South Beltway. It's included making miles and miles of street repair just in the last year alone. 18 arterials have been done and over 90 blocks of residential street repair. It also means investment in things that you don't necessarily see, like the new Fiber to the Home project, which is a public-private partnership. Having increased access to high-speed internet should support local businesses. And then there are the economic development projects, something that we vote on week after week. As we annex land that helps build out homes and consumers for businesses, we also work on redeveloping the core of the city and allowing new mixed-use projects to take place. Mixed-use projects meaning both residential and commercial projects. Something, for example, of this is the Telegraph District, which is taking land that used to be in the floodplain and making it available for development to help grow an area of our city. I've also been supportive and very keenly aware of how important parking is for businesses. We're looking at building out new parking garages downtown and relaxing some of the regulations, the requirements for parking in commercial centers that are scattered throughout the city. When it comes to workforce development, we've expanded public transit. We need to continue to do that to help people get to work. But we've also got to focus on quality of life issues, like our parks and trail system. You know, if you go to websites that promote Lincoln, they talk about our trails and our parks because this is something that makes us an attractive community for young professionals, for employees, for businesses who are considering moving here. And of course, so in addition, that helps us grow our community in ways that benefit businesses. Thank you very much.
Five minutes goes by real fast, doesn't it? And up next is Lou Ross. Lou?
Good afternoon. I would just first like to say thank you to everybody that's here and engaging in the process, the political process that more of us should be engaging in as Lincolnites and across this country. So first, thank you. I'd like to show appreciation for taking this time. I'm going to answer these two questions really quickly. First, like you heard, my name is Luke Ross. I'm a 37-year-old lifelong Nebraskan raising 3 girls here in the city of Lincoln. My wife is a lifelong Lincolnite. I was smart enough to follow her here. Hey, we bought our home and we're raising our girls. On the first question, I want to say, should the city accept this windfall and spend it or lower the levy tax rate to return to taxpayers? I have a question. And the question is, I think a lot of us in here are kind of wondering, is last night that there was a pledge made, and right now this question is asking for a pledge, but everybody's like, well, hold on. We're not really doing anything with it. We're just kicking the can down the road. Okay? This question kind of gives it either or. If we are already kicking it down the road, because that's what the city council last night decided to do, then we should really be taking a look at the needs of our community before we make this decision of automatically giving it back or spending it. Right now we have a budget that is covered for the next year, but we also have a multitude of departments, including our fire and our police departments, that say they need better, they need more jobs, they need help. Now, what are we supposed to do is automatically say we're giving the money back to the community without looking at our boys in blue and the men and women who work to make sure that they save lives in this city every day? Or should we really consider what they got to say before we make the decision that we're just going to put the money and give it back? Do we take care of everything to make sure this city is on track going into the future? Do we make sure that our businesses, our local businesses, start getting the help they need to compete with the national businesses that come in here? Or do we just give it back on a one-time fee? These are the questions that I believe we should honestly be asking ourselves and each other as we look at the leadership that we are putting into Lincoln. That's what I'm asking. I'm not saying I have the answers, but what I'm saying is I'm standing here knowing that there are 3 signs in front of the office building, and one of them ain't mine, but I'm asking you, what are your ideas? What are your ideas on how we can continue to grow this city better together? Because that's what I'm about. Because Woodrow Wilson said that a public servant's ear should be consistently ringing with the ears of the people. So I can get up here and give pledges and promises and say I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that just to get your votes. Or I can be honest with you and say, hey, I'm not the brightest crayon on the box, and my kids will tell you that, but I do listen and I do compromise and I do try to work things out for the better of our community, because I got 3 little girls' lives at stake coming up, and I want to make sure that the community they're growing in, they have a step up and they get to have the businesses, they get to be the leaders. And I want to make sure that we can do that together for all the generations of all the kids and grandkids that we all sitting here working hard for today now. Now, second question, what will you do as a member of the Lincoln City Council, though, benefit Lincoln businesses? Key word there, Lincoln businesses. Key word, Lincoln businesses. Because we continue to see large-scale businesses come into this town, and they get tax breaks, tax increment financing, they get to work out sweetheart deals. They get to go compete. They have the national capital, the marketing to go against local businesses, and we keep seeing local businesses get drowned out, pushed out, shoved out, and not getting those same deals. We need to grow Lincoln locally. We need to invest in the local businesses of Lincoln. That is how we are going to sustain and grow this community. But that means we have to invest also in the human infrastructure. We have to invest in the fact that our kids need to be brighter, smarter, open, good with creative ideas, so that we can continue growing and making businesses better, not only that you're running now, but businesses that you can work with 10 years down the line. My name is Louis Frank Bronx III. I'm 37 years old. I don't own a business, but I work my tail off, and I hope you guys see that, hear that, and if you have any questions, contact me, and I hope I earn your vote on April 4th. Thank you very much. I do appreciate the time. Catch me outside if you'd like to. Thank you.
Up next is Roy Christensen.
Pleasure to be with you today. Question number 1, yes, I did propose a resolution that passed yesterday at City Council that we will forego using the windfall to increase city expenditures. But let me make this clear. This is a non-binding resolution of intent. Now what happens is in the fall, the end of the summer, we're going to set the annual levy. Now, we just went through what I would call a rough and tumble budget season last year, and what we found out in the end was that the City Council establishing the property tax levy is a ministerial duty, and that must be done to meet the approved budget. The same applies coming this fall. It is a ministerial duty this fall, just like it was last fall. And we will have to set the levy, to match the budget, which means, unless there's some emergency expenditures going on, that we will have to reduce the levy rate. So the next question is about what will I do as a member of the City Council to benefit Lincoln business? Well, I've been there doing that. I'm a businessman. I own my own small business. I can tell you what I need in my community as a businessman, as what everybody else needs. We need a safe community where people can feel free to move around 24 hours every day. If that's when they want to move around, 1 o'clock in the morning, they should do it safely. So we need good public safety, fire and police. I've worked hard to increase the number of police officers. It's coming time that we're going to have to add some things to the fire department. As much as some people might not want to hear that. But in 1954, the city of Lincoln added its 4th truck company. Okay? Today we have 4 truck companies. Now what a truck company does is they are responsible for technical rescue. They're the ones who respond to traffic accidents and pull people out of the jaws of life. They go to fires. They don't put out the fire. They turn off all the utilities. They cut holes in the roof. They do all these technical stuff and they rescue people. So we're looking at a growing city. We need those kind of services. I have worked diligently to try to control city expenditures, working towards reasonable prioritization of funding for all different programs we have. And I have tried to hold the line on taxes. Finally, I'll say that we have a city where job creation is an issue. And I believe one of the root issues we have is a shortage of buildable lots in the city. Today, we have fewer than 600 homes on the market for sale. 2 years ago, it was more than double that number, and 7 or 8 years ago, it was over 2,400 homes for sale at any given moment in the city. Our recent revaluation, the lion's share of those revaluations were on the lot prices themselves. We have been walking the racehorse when it comes to home building and construction in the city of Lincoln. We need to annex more land and make that available for development. So let me talk for a little bit about what brought me to Lincoln. I'm an audiologist, former Army officer. I was working in Yakima, Washington, doing what I love, helping people hear better. And my boss was going to retire one day and let me become the owner. And one day he comes in and said, my son is going to be an audiologist now. Isn't that great news? So, put paid to those plans. I went to a convention in Orlando, Florida in October of 1997. And flying there in Seattle, the airline pilot said, look at the left side of the aircraft. You see Lincoln, Nebraska, snowed under and out of power. Flying back on Sunday, look out the right side of your aircraft, see Lincoln, Nebraska, snowed under and out of power. Miserable place, Lincoln, Nebraska. The next morning, I get a phone call from somebody from Manhattan, Kansas, who says, you don't know who I am, and I know who you are, and I want you to work with me in an audiology practice at Lincoln, Nebraska. And so that was at the end of October. I opened my doors for business the first week of December of that year. I love Lincoln. I've lived all over the world. I've lived in the East Coast, Deep South, West Coast, Rocky Mountains, Midwest, South America, Europe, and people make the place, folks. And by that standard, Lincoln, Nebraska is good or better than any place I've ever been. And that's why this is my home and this stay my home. Please vote for me. Please take home one of these. There's some on your table. And hand them over to a friend. Thank you.
Now, if you would, please welcome Ray McLaughlin.
Hi, everybody. I'm Ray McLaughlin, running for City Council, just like everybody else up here. I was born and raised here in Lincoln, and I have a lot of experience in both the public and private sector as a city planner, as a small business owner, and these two questions come to the really nuts and bolts about what we're really looking at and trying to reform the city. With the property valuations, we definitely need to get the windfall back to the people by lowering the tax levy, the second half of the biennium budget, or giving a proportion of it back to the police and fire fund, pension fund, to let taxpayers off the hook for a little bit of that too. The problem is right now with Lincoln is we've got a lot of really great things going on with the city, but it's so hard to afford a house, it's so hard to afford starting a business, and it's so hard to afford a lot of the things that we all do on a day-to-day basis as far as where's the tax money being spent, where's the property values being spent. And I've talked to over 9,000 people. I've knocked on almost 10,000 doors, and everyone is concerned with property valuations going up as quickly as they have. And I would like to take a look at capping the amount of valuations that we increase on a year-to-year basis to prevent a lot of this sting that has happened with the valuations going up as much as they have, as quickly as they have. And I've talked to a lot of seniors, and 1 out of every 4 of them has told me that they're thinking about selling their home, moving out of the city, because they can't afford to live here anymore. I mean, businesses are looking to attract people to move to this city, and if Lincoln's on a list of 2 or 3 other cities that they're thinking about moving to, but if our property taxes are 3 or 4 times higher than another city, we are not going to get these people here. That's a big concern. And we've got to take a look at this by making sure that we spend the money as properly as we can. And the best way is to give it back to the people. If you wanted to go and buy a sandwich, you walk down the street, grab a $10 bill, buy a sandwich at a sandwich shop. If you wanted the government to buy you a sandwich, you give the government $10, they flush it down the toilet, ask you for another 10, flush that down the toilet, ask you for another 10, and then go buy you a loaf of bread and expect you to be happy. It's just the way it works. And so the public sector is never going to spend our money as well as we will be able to. And that's the finest point of it, is that people are going to be having a better use of their own money than with the government. I worked for the government for 5 years, and I know how this works in the public sector. There's lots of regulations, there's lots of lack of oversight, there's a lot of areas where the money slips through the cracks, where a lot of waste happens. Whether it's intentional or not, most of it's just the way the system works. And Lincoln is a very processed town, and a lot of times the reason for doing something, because this is the way we've always done it, doesn't mean that that's the right way to do things. And that leads me into the second question, is what do we need to do to benefit Lincoln businesses? I'm a city planner. I'm a small business called Bridgewater Consulting, and I've done a lot of work with cities and architecture and a lot of projects around town where the first answer we'll get from the city is no. And I don't know about any of you, but raise your hand if you've ever been rear-ended by the city when you're trying to accomplish something. That on a project or on any sort of thing where you've gotten no immediately. One of the projects I've worked on, we're trying to get a project built out on an acreage. He was trying to do the highest best use for his property. And immediately the city said no, because there were this regulation, or there was this code, or there was this problem. And as a result, he couldn't build what he needed to do for his business, because the city is seeing it as an obstacle instead of something to encourage. We have to really look at the process. And as somebody who's experienced that on both public and private sector sides, that's the first thing we need to look at, is what is the problems that we can't hire people, we can't do the projects that are going to bring in income that will allow us to invest in our communities. Those are the problems. I have a lot of experience in this field. This is what I love to do, and I've really been working with a lot of trying to talk to as many people as I can and find out what everyone's concerns are. I'd be honored if you could vote for me here in April and May. I promise I'd be the most hardest working city council person, and if you ever have any concerns, any questions, please talk to me. I really want to know what everyone's concerned with, what everyone's problems are. But again, so listening is what I do. Listening is what I want to know. Tell me about your issues, and I'd be honored to have you. Thank you.
Now, if you would, please, let's welcome Tom Nesbitt.
Well, thank you for this opportunity. What a great crowd, and thanks for taking the time to be here today. My name's Tom Nesbitt. I'm running for city council as well at large. Most of my history is public safety. 30-some years of public safety and 28 years in state patrol. Elevated to Colonel Superintendent of Patrol when I retired, and I was very blessed and honored to hold that position. So now I'll answer the questions. Lower the levy rate to return it to the taxpayers. That's just a no-brainer, common sense thing. That's what we got to do, return it back to the taxpayers. I applaud the city council for what they did last night on that vote, but I'm going to tell you right now, if I'm blessed with being elected to this position, I will be voting to lower that levy. And I'm hopeful also, the others that get money out of this taxes, schools and others will lower their levy as well, because that's very important in my opinion. The next question is Lincoln businesses. Well, I'm a member of LIBA, for one thing. And I started 2 businesses in 2007. And the one business, we each put, my partner and I, $1,000 on top. And And I said, this is where we're at. We're going to start in our basement, not putting one more penny in this business. We'll see how it goes. Well, unbelievable how well it works, but now it's an international company. We work in 8 different countries across the world in security consulting. And never dreamt that would happen, but it was hard work and understanding that and how that works. You know, the development of businesses is so vitally important, and government and Lincoln, in my opinion, hits that to some degree. It's very important that all of our developments are worked toward the betterment of Lincoln by businesses improving, by more businesses brings more jobs, which brings more homes sold, which broadens the tax basis, which ultimately lowers the tax base. And that's so important to do that. We need less regulations, less rules of what we have. We really need to think about that and sit back and look at all those things. As I've talked to business people across the city of Lincoln, one of the things that they told me is they're concerned about some of the buildings being built here in Lincoln. They think it could be a public safety issue, that they can withstand high winds here in Lincoln and withstand other things. Well, you know, we need to look at that. We need to talk about that. And again, to make sure that these buildings are safe for everybody. And I'm not one to propose that we add more regs and rules. As I said, we need less of those, but we need to work through that process. Public safety is a huge thing, and I'm running it. That's my number one thing is public safety. We need more cops in this city. We had 11 more murders last year than the year before. Rape is up over 13% in this city, and those are serious things. And I know that because I was in law enforcement, and I understand that. I was responsible for a $41 million budget and over 700 employees, and I'm proud to say that I added 50 to 60 troopers during that time and maintained my budget as well. And that's hugely important to be able to do that. I think that we need to make sure that as we invest in Lincoln, that we are very mindful of the public safety thing. That's one thing that government has to provide, is public safety. When you need a cop, you expect a cop. When you need a firefighter or an ambulance, you expect that to be there. And we need to review that and look at that very carefully, all those things. This is a nonpartisan race. And I'm telling you that I'm going to represent everybody in the city of Lincoln. That is vitally important to me. As a colonel of the State Patrol, I understood the importance of representing all the citizens. I took every call that came into my office, and I returned those in the city, in the state. It took a lot of hours, but it was important to do. It's a nonpartisan, and I'm running on character, because character is so vitally important to this process. And I have the highest character, and I will do the best job that I possibly can. Again, I represent everybody. I'm proud to say that I've been endorsed by the Lincoln Police Union, as well as the Lincoln Central Labor Union. Those people understand me. They know I'm going to bring jobs, and they know I'm going to do the best for the city of Lincoln to ensure that we have a safe environment for all our people, and city of Lincoln flourishes. Again, Tom Nesbitt, City Council at large, and I would greatly appreciate, and I'm honored and humbled for your vote. Thank you.
And now let's keep the applause going. Betty Schill is
Good afternoon. My name is Benny Schill, and I'm one of the candidates for one of the at-large seats for the Lincoln City Council. We did one of these a couple weeks ago, and I got to go first, and I thought, God, first anxiety attack. Going last wasn't that much better. So let's work through the butterflies and the anxiety and answer the questions, and then tell you a little bit about me, and then we can all go do something fun, like vote for Benny Schill for City Council. The property, the levy, and all, there's a lot of words there, but when I'm elected to City Council, I will hold to the pledge made by the City Council last night to lower the levy and give that money back. We as City Council people are responsible for taxing no more than we need and spending that wisely. And the resolution passed last night goes a long way to that degree. We need to respect the residents of the city and honor that request. I would do that when elected. And the second part of that is, what would I do as a member of the city council to benefit Lincoln business. Well, many years ago, I tried small business and I was not good at it. It's hard work and I was not good at it. As a city council person, go catch. As a city council person, I will look at restrictions, regulations, and see what I can do to help minimize the burden on local businesses. I would improve the dialogue between city council and business. You know, I'm a resident of the community. I need the services you offer as business owners. I need the employment that you offer as business owners. We need to work together to make the city better. And I'm improving the dialogue. It's not a them versus us. It's an all of us together to improve the city situation. We need to work on that. Compromise is not a dirty word. It seems to have taken that context in our society. It's not. We need to work together. Give and take. I want to tell you a little story about me. I grew up in a place called Kentucky. You may have heard of it. Bowling Green, Kentucky is home, and where I grew up. And my grandfather owned a small farm, and my dad, one of his 3 sons. My dad's Benny Sr., I'm Benny Jr., or as they call me, Little Benny, Little Jr. And I learned good work ethic on the farm. My father was a salesman for the Coca-Cola Company, and during summer breaks, he would take me with him on his Coke route where he delivered. His route was about 30 miles away from home. And we would go there Monday through Friday, deliver sodas, and then on Saturdays and Sundays, we'd go back to the community, and we'd buy our groceries, we bought our cars there, we did all the services we needed from his customers. And I asked him about that, why are we driving 30 miles to do this? He says, I have built a relationship with these business owners. They need me, and I need them. And it's a matter of respect and honor that I go back and do that. So I learned that from my dad, who retired in October last year after 60 years at his job. So, hard work ethic, respect for others, that's something that I want to bring to the city council. I want to improve the dialogue and make sure that we all work together to make Lincoln a little better. I know it's a little late in the day, so I'm not going to talk for my 4 or 5 minutes, but I want to thank you for the opportunity. Thanks for the chance to give me a chance to speak with all of you. I look forward to working with all of you to help grow Lincoln, and I ask you to vote for Benny Show for city council. Thank you.